This is Fam Electric Ghost, and we're live on the air with Melinda Lee. And we're going to talk to you about your book, Rebel Hugger, which we have up here. And we'll welcome you to the Fam Electric Ghost podcast. This is the first time we're talking to you. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, fandom. It's great to be here.
Well, it's great to talk to people from around the world. We've been talking to creative people since 2016 live. That's kind of what we do. One of the things that we like to ask every guest that comes on the show is a couple of questions like, what motivates you and why do you do what you do?
Those are great questions. What motivates me is people. I love people so much, and I love helping people just feel better. It doesn't even matter. Like just smiling at them, if that lifts their day, fantastic. That absolutely motivates me. And that's why I do what I do. I am an empowerment coach, and it is something that is near and dear to my heart because I love helping women, especially, just become their most authentic self, because I believe when we're in our most authentic self, we're like shining our brightest. And who doesn't want to be that or be around people that are like that?
Yeah, I think that's really important because, like, I'm a creative and I've always talked to creative people. I started the podcast to talk to kind of emerging and independent artists of many different forms. And
Yeah.
one of the things I always ask people is, like, what gave you the permission structure to actually do your art? Because a lot of people struggle with that. You know, we have people who are phenoms. They start when they're like 5 years old, 4 years
Mm-hmm.
old. They kind of know what they want and
Yeah.
they go that way. There's a lot of people who don't actually self-actualize until later because they've kind of been driven off the path.
Yes. Yeah. And I definitely feel like I belong in that latter stage. I was kind of driven off my path. And this book, Rebel Hugger, it is a process of talking about these hug journeys that I've been on, which were amazing in and of themselves. But the bigger journey was returning to myself. And that's really what it's about.
Yeah, self-love is hard because some people feel shame in self-love because they think it's like arrogant.
Yeah.
They think it's not something that you should be more like self-sacrificing is what you should do. And then they kind of like put yourself down and then, be a people pleaser. And then
Yep.
you end up hitting that, that kind of crucible moment where you've maxed out of that. And then
Yeah.
everybody around you wonders why, well, how come you don't want to be a people pleaser anymore?
Right. Right. And then all of a sudden you don't like fit into your circles anymore. And there's really like such a feeling of abandonment and rejection that can come in, that I think a lot of us just are afraid to continue down that path. But really, there's so much freedom in continuing down that path.
And also like hugging and like touch, in some societies, like, culturally touch is like frowned upon.
Yeah.
I mean, people would say, well, Western culture is not like that. But, yeah, you can look at Eastern culture, Western culture, all kinds of cultures where there are aspects of our culture that kind of say, no, you shouldn't really show that you should like not display that.
Yeah.
Was that something when you became like this rebel hugger concept of yours? Was that hard to do?
It's so funny because it was hard to do. And it wasn't just because it's kind of frowned upon in society, but like the bigger piece is I was out there hugging strangers. So my first hug journey, I spent an entire year hugging everybody that I encountered. And so here I am, like this random person behind you in the grocery store. And after striking up a conversation, I'll be like, can I give you a hug now? Like, it's just so random and it's so weird in our society. And so it was such a vulnerable thing for me to do that every morning I would wake up and be like, okay, I got this. I can do this again. And it never got any easier as the year went on.
Yeah, I would think because people have like put up boundaries because there's
Yes,
a sense of safety, and I run into
absolutely.
with like lots of creatives like their sense of safety and sense of self is a lot of times creatives like to be in isolation
Yes.
in order. I go the writers and the artists I've talked to, they get a lot. They are able to create because they can kind of live outside of the society. they can live away from other people and dive into like the inner and like subconscious
Yep.
states, like dream states. They can kind of channel it like the muse. They can pull it, and to do that, they observe the world,
Yep.
but they need time to be away from the world. So to go in and then interact, sometimes they're like, oh, like kind of standoffish.
100%. I mean, I think that the only reason that I was like in it is because people were my muse, right? So like I felt like I didn't have a choice because that was my creative. I had to be
Mhm.
in it, not just observing it. So it was a challenge.
Yeah, because I would think you got people that have boundaries might be like, no.
Yeah, and I did get quite I got like maybe 5 no's that first year when I did that year of hugs. And honestly, they were all so kind and they were so respectful. So they actually, those no's showed me what a respectful, compassionate boundary can look like. Because
Hmm.
as a people pleaser, I did not have any idea like what boundaries were. And I was like, oh, I don't need boundaries. I'm just going to be out there hugging everybody and it's going to be amazing. I
Yeah.
learned later that that
Also,
wasn't
it's a
true.
communication skill to get people to let their defenses down, to be vulnerable, because people don't know where you're coming from.
Yep.
So like people are so, and maybe your demeanor, like if you, when you're, in the world dealing with people, not virtually, but in the real world, right? In
Yep.
the physical state, or like how you, the nonverbal, like what you do with your eyes, like
Yep.
any actor will tell you, like what you do with your hand movements, what you do to disarm people or to make people feel comfortable. You must have learned a lot of techniques.
Yeah. I mean, and really, I found that the more authentic and vulnerable I was, in showing them, like the people that I was asking, I would always ask by kind of pulling my energy back. So I wasn't coming across as a threat, right? So I would automatically kind of do this pulling back and I would soften my face and I would make all of my energy as soft as possible to become the least threatening as possible. And even then, I still had people that were like, they kind of give me that side eye, like,
Like, what's on? What's going on? Well, yeah,
okay,
because so people are kind of
okay.
suspicious of strangers because
Yeah,
stranger danger.
stranger danger.
Now, like not to be kind of putting gender into it, but if a guy does that, then people find me really kind of, I don't know about that. But
So I think it's really interesting because I've kind of played with that a little bit because I know that there can be these gender roles that make it safer or not safer for some people. And I've watched men like my dad. My dad is a self-professed hugger and he will hug anyone.
wow,
And he, again, I think it comes down to the energy that you're
energy,
putting
like the
in.
frequency you're radiating. It's kind of like
Mhm.
vibes.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
so, I think people have a radar and this
yep,
idea of a vibe. Like being a musician is like frequency.
yep,
So, like the law of attraction is like if I radiate in the right frequency,
yep,
I could create something very harmonious. And as a musician on stage, everybody's pulling their lighter out, everybody's waving their hand. I've picked up on that and I've kind of disarmed the crowd or got them to be like in frequency with what I'm doing.
yeah,
But
yeah,
you could go
exactly.
the other way and be like a grunge band, and everybody's in a mosh pit banging into each other. So you can trigger different emotions
Yeah,
based on frequency. So if you had something that's like dissonant or
yeah,
discordant or noisy, then you'll get a different reaction than whether it's harmonious and disarming.
yeah. Yeah, and I think one of the most beautiful things was that by creating that resonance and creating that vibe, right? When the people, even the people that were skeptical and gave me that like side eye, after the hug was in the middle of the hug, I could feel like their shoulders drop and I could
Mhm.
feel their energy soften. And there were so many times when I would pull away and I would watch a tear like falling down their face. And it moved me every time.
That's interesting because I think a lot of people have their guard up
Hmm.
and they've got their suspicion meter on.
Hmm.
And there's a lot of, in the modern world, where people don't communicate like they used to. Like, before radio and TV and the internet, people used to talk.
Yeah.
People used to communicate. They kind of knew each other. They would know, they have conversations. Like now people, they're with their phone, or they're disconnected, or they're just not even connected in their own neighborhood to people that
Right.
are in their neighborhood, compared to like in the 70s, like I knew everybody in the subdivision.
Right.
Now you
Right.
can be in a subdivision and people don't talk to each other.
Yeah.
And so
Exactly.
like in that kind of world, it's like, well, what you're doing is kind of revolutionary.
I see it absolutely as revolutionary, because I think it's like not just a return to like that connection and bringing, communities together, but it's this revolutionary act of seeing someone as a fellow human being, not as their label, not as like the way they present, not as the choices that they're making, but in that moment of the hug, it's like heart to heart, human to human, and that's it. And it's beautiful. And that, I believe, is totally revolutionary.
Yeah, especially when everybody's in camps today, in terms of
Yeah.
ideological camps,
Yeah.
where people were being told, like, if somebody is not within your ideological group, you should not like them. You
Right.
should not communicate with them.
Right.
There's this like, you're an out, like you're an outsider, you're an
Yeah.
outlier, right? So there's like the blame game.
Yeah.
This group is responsible for X,
Right.
and this group, because they do this, it's interfering with my life. So there's all this deep suspicion of the other,
Yep.
instead of looking at human beings like have a right to be on the planet Earth, right? So if a human being came from outer space and landed in a country and they didn't have their papers, it's like they'd be an enemy.
Yeah.
But it's like the human beings are supposed to be on this planet, but I guess you're in the wrong place. You're not the right. You're an enemy.
Yeah. And I think that as somebody who has um understood what it feels like to be an outlier. Like I look like I fit the mold, but inside I don't match what I look like. And so I have tried to always fit in, because I'm like, well, if I have the look, then it should be easy for me. But then I would find myself in situations where I just didn't fit in.
Feel uncomfortable. Yeah,
It was
you didn't vibe. You didn't vibe with the energy.
Yeah. And not only that, but the energy, the other people, like then I became like, ooh, do we really want to have her around? Because I'm not the same.
Yeah. Well, yeah,
And
that can happen because people make assumptions, right? We're very
yeah,
kind of like surface level. It's like a lot of surface
yeah,
level stuff going on. So somebody could walk in and it's like, well, yeah, you belong here. But then once they hear what you have to say, or they see how you respond, and they
yeah,
say, whoa, this person is not from our social group.
right,
Right? This person is breaking the social contract because in this group, we don't do X. We don't
right,
do Y. We don't do Z. And
right.
now this person is doing X, Y, and Z. So, we can't have them in here.
Yep. Hence the reason why it's called Rebel Hugger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the social mores. I was a sociology major. So we kind of studied like anomie, social mores, and like the
Mhm.
idea, like people, the idea, concept of anomie is like not of being like, not being able to fit in,
Yeah.
feeling out of place, like that outsider mold, where I think a lot of people try to run to safety to find a place where they are, where they do fit in. And then, as an artist, we tend to go outside the bell curve.
Yep.
We tend to go out, well, that means kind of thinking out the box, kind of high
Yep.
level. And if you think out the box, you're going to do something that usually, like in the arts, is outside the canon.
Yeah.
Right. So you do something outside the canon, people say, well, that's not music, or that's
Yep.
not impressionism, or that's not this, or that's not that. That's not how you're supposed to do it. But like at the outer edges, that's where the innovation happens. And when you do it, most of the time, you're not going to be like the first thing you do. Like the first time you push it
Yeah.
out there, people aren't going to agree with it. They're not going to
Yep.
like it. And so then you're like, do you take it personal? Do you back off? Or do you keep on going?
Yeah. And it's so hard to keep on going because that rejection, you feel that in your body. Hence the reason why so many of us creatives are like, nope, I got to stay in my bubble because I can't be out there and be influenced by any of that.
Yeah, that's why we get that private time of the artist that refines their craft.
Yeah.
And then they find a way to get it to the in the world today. You can put it out in the world, throw it at the ether, throw it in
Right.
like the dartboard of the ether. Right.
Right.
And now it's like maybe in your hometown they don't like it, but in
Yeah.
Berlin they like it.
Right.
Or in Korea they like it. So then you have because of this kind of interconnected world, you have a chance to push it out there, not based on your microcosm or macrocosm space that you can initially envision. You
Yeah.
can actually put it into the whole world.
Yeah. I know. I'm so grateful for that now. I mean, I feel like such gratitude for how expansive our worlds have become. Like, I know sometimes it can be really challenging because I certainly can't hug the people that are over in Korea, but they can connect. The internet can connect me. I was connected with this woman in Bahrain as I was doing my year of hugs, and her and I remained connected, and we would email each other, and my hugs got to impact her and the way that she interacted with her family. And I mean, that's so amazing and beautiful.
Did you have any surprises on where you were well received and where you weren't?
When my message got out there, so first of all, the Bahrain really surprised me, especially because she was saying how in their particular culture, touch really is not comfortable, and it's not widely accepted. So it was really heartwarming to know that my story touched her, and it really changed the way she interacted with her family. But then it was, I want to say, Brazil I got messages from Brazil, and they ran my story, and Vietnam, I think, was the other one. And it's just moving, and it just felt like validation about this whole concept of like, we're just humans. We're all just humans. And hug is a communication that's understood regardless of where you are and regardless of whether it's accepted in your society or not.
Yeah, I think human beings at a basic level, like what you're trying to convey with a hug, I think every human being can kind of understand it, whether or not culturally they've been taught not to react to it well. I think if you get past the defenses and you get past the programming, I think all human beings can kind of relate to like empathy.
Yeah.
And it seems like the hug is a physical manifestation of like empathy.
Yes.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's how I can read it. Maybe you don't read it that way, but
no, that's exactly it. Empathy and connection, like these very taboo concepts, which is crazy because they're some of the most beautiful concepts, right?
Yeah. We kind of live in an age where like being being empathetic is considered to be weak. Like if you think from like the male kind of tech bro alpha male kind of bro culture that's going on now, is like in the 70s there was kind of like a feminization of creativity, and it was understood, and you can see in the culture that you get like David Bowie and Mick Jagger, and you get the new wave movement. There was this thing where you can be in touch with the male and the feminine, and it was okay. It was like the late 60s into the 80s,
right?
And there was kind of like a rejection of that, and now with this culture, it's like anything soft is weak, anything connected is bad. Any kind of conception of having any empathy or sympathy or concern, it makes you not like you're not going to be successful because you need to be harder than that.
Yeah. And you ask anybody that leads with vulnerability, empathy, all of the things that Brene Brown talks about, you talk with any of them, and they will tell you right now, that is so much stronger than holding boundaries. Like, it takes strength of character to hold empathy and compassion and vulnerability in the face of people that don't agree with you, that don't like you, that just want to deny who you are, that takes a strength.
Yeah, there's a lot of strength and courage and not like roll it over.
Yeah.
If you get this kind of top down to be safe, it's kind of going back to like a tribal kind of old kind of thinking of the wolves at the door.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if you go outside the safety of the clan or the tribe back in old humanity, right, then you're subject to the wild animals outside the group.
Right.
So you will kind of push yourself down and like, well, I won't experiment by going out there.
Yeah.
I will go and stay with what the tribal leaders tell me to do
Right.
because that keeps me safe.
Right.
Even though I can't maybe do the individual things I want to do, I'll kind of push myself down to have that sense of safety. And now you have the virtual wolf at the door.
Right.
The virtual wolf at the door could be a behavior or an action or something unique about yourself
Yeah.
that suddenly is threatening to the group.
Yeah.
So now that's the wolf. Everybody says that's a danger to the entire group. And so then you have to push yourself down because that you're threatening the safety of the whole group. So
Or leave the group and go find a new group.
yeah, that's the thing is like people like you're not gonna die
Yeah.
going outside the group, but that threat that feeling of safety I think is so integral to a lot of people is
It is.
they feel their individual identity is tied to the group.
Yeah. I mean, and we're biologically wired for that, right? Because we're social beings. So we're biologically wired to remain connected and remain in these groups. It's just that we have this false sense that this group is our only option.
Mm-hmm.
When really there are
the crucible that's
yeah,
the crucible moment when you
yeah,
realize that group is not your only option.
yeah,
And that you could actually go and if you start to travel the world, like it seems like you've been around in a journey, right? That's like international, right?
It was more cross country, but I have traveled internationally. But my second hug journey was cross country. It was just
Okay.
across the United States.
But even going to different sectors of the US is
Yep.
like very different.
Very different. And the cultures in each different area are very different. And the people within those cultures are all very different. And it's so eye-opening. And I learned so much about who I wanted to be just by being around all of these people who were so different than me.
And that's really interesting because like and I lived in Japan and then people, for a couple of years as an expat. And my wife lived overseas. But there's this idea, like, sometimes when you're overseas, like, oh, this like American is kind of like this brutish American.
Yeah.
but like when you go within America, Americans are all the same, right? And so it's like this idea that the world has, they tags people. Like you go
Yeah.
outside the US, you start realizing that I'm getting tagged with this ugly American, or I'm getting tagged with the brutish American. I'm getting tagged as this American that's clueless, can't speak multiple languages, not cultured, whatever. You get a lot of tags.
Yeah.
And then you're like, then they find out, oh, that's not like, oh, that's the case by case. I shouldn't tag everybody with the same brush.
I mean, it's that way for pretty much everything, everywhere,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like that's where I was talking about like this idea of hugging and the labels just in those few seconds, the labels fall away. They
Yeah.
just fall away.
Because that's your goal is to get the labels to fall away.
Yep. Yep. Totally. It's absolutely amazing.
Yeah, because it's interesting because human connection, evolving in this world where people are getting so stratified. We're living in an age of stratification or separation. Like nationalism is on the rise.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, we didn't learn the lessons of the 30s.
Right.
It
Right.
was like so you're on a mission to kind of like bring this understanding, a humanist kind of point of view, right? Like we're all
Yeah.
citizens of the planet. We
Right.
should we should understand each other. We should
Right.
not be like paying attention to all these labels, all these stratifications, all these separate concepts. It's like they keep you like the other.
Right. And I think that there's just so many layers to actually accomplishing that, right? Because we have so many stories and we have so many beliefs, and we're a lot of this idea of how we're supposed to be in the world is ingrained in us. And I found that the closer I became to my most authentic self, the more open I was to accepting somebody else being their most authentic self. And so I think that it really just starts with the self-love, and it starts with the self-actualization first and foremost.
I think the self-love ends up being something that some people can't get their head around
Right.
because
Right.
they think it's like, oh, that's a 70s hippie thing. That's like that's
Right.
a
Right.
hokey thing. That's like oh, like somebody in some like I don't know, some other world. Like
Right.
you look at, you came from another planet. Like it's like
Right.
they can't get it around it. It's like, well, like how does that fit in?
I mean, I get it. I was one of those people. Like I would listen to all these spiritual leaders and these people that I like admired, and they would talk about this self-love, and I'm like, what is that? Like I just don't understand. Like that feels like something that I'm not capable of, or that there must be something broken inside of me that I can't even wrap my brain around it, like you're saying. And the more I understood who I am, the self-love followed. So it wasn't even something I needed to do. It was just being more and more myself. And this self-love was a product of being my more authentic self.
Now, when you started to hug people, did it open up conversations? Was it all like the hug is a physical connection? But once you did the hug, did it open up like a verbal connection?
It didn't. And I didn't really hold space for that. I wanted it to be like this incredibly pure moment of just connection and gratitude and love that I wanted to leave that person with for just that moment. And
Mhm.
that was my only intention for that first year. So but what I didn't leave open room for conversation in those immediate hugs. But what it did open was conversations with my family and my friends in my neighborhood. And, people would start having more conversations with each other
Oh,
about like, oh, are you hugging more because of her, or are you doing more because of her? And like it really did get conversations going around hugs and around connection and around community. And so with each individual person, no, but in the larger
the macrocosm. It
groups.
started like a microcosm group, and then it gets a wider discussion of if you
Yeah.
do this, what does it do? Does it help you break barriers? Does it help you
Yeah.
open up?
Yeah.
You start to, and that became like the impetus for was like the idea to do the hugs part of the book, or did it become a book because you started to do it?
Yeah, it was just the book wasn't a thought when I first got started. When I first got started, it was simply like I just want to go out there and hug people. And when the year was over, I actually found myself more isolated, lonely, and depressed than before. Whereas I thought it would be different. I thought it was like, oh, well, this is my path forward and this is my purpose. And so when I found myself in these deep throes of depression, as I was coming out of that is when the idea that, oh, there's a book here because something has happened to me and something has transformed me. And that is going to be something that I'm going to want to be able to share with the world.
So that in the path, it kind of led you a path toward like, oh, this is like a germ of an idea that actually should get expanded on, and I'm actually going to dive into it from a book. Had you written books before?
I had not written books before. This was my first one. I'd written blogs before, but those are two very different beasts.
Yeah. So was there a ramping up to get into the author mode?
Well, yeah. I mean, when I first started the process of writing, I actually had printed out all of my blog posts so that I could read through the year my year of hugs to try to like inspire me to get into the mode of writing. And instead of writing, and any other writers out there is going to understand this and they're going to laugh at this. Instead of writing, I decided, oh, let me go out on another hug journey instead. So like I totally avoided the writing by going out on another adventure. But I'm so glad that I did, because it really filled in a lot of gaps that I had been missing, because my second hug journey, as I briefly mentioned, was cross country. And that was where I decided to actually stay overnight with the people that I was hugging so that we could have deeper conversations and I could have more of that connection with them.
Did you start to like journal that or diary that?
Yep. I was journaling that. I was doing voice notes because, you know, some of my drives were like 8 hours from one city to the next. And, but I had this internal intention also to kind of notice the relationships and to notice how I was changing throughout that adventure, that cross-country adventure. And I think that there was the author part of me was already like doing the work in the background, you know?
Kind of like a Jack Kerouac on the road, but then at a different point of view. Like you're actually taking the experience and going like inner.
Yeah. Yep.
Rather than kind of Jack Kerouac's like the outer experience, maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just interesting to like go on that path as a creative and start to realize like you're doing it because you had a need. You know, a lot of times as a musician, we write a piece of music because it's cathartic, right? Like, and we don't have an intention of it trying to turn it into a hit. We're just like noodling at the piano or on the guitar because we're trying to work through something, and then eventually it's like, hey, this is actually something I should send outside my creative box. To the world. And so I guess there was a point where you say, hey, all this stuff I'm gathering, all this information I'm diarying and putting into voice memos, this needs to go out to the public in some kind of tailored form to really express my lesson learned or what I've gained out from this, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because it felt like, there were so many, like I said, at the end of the year of hugs, I was like really lonely and I couldn't understand why I would feel so lonely after hugging thousands of people. Like that just didn't make any sense to me. And it was like, if I find myself in these situations that don't make sense, then let me make sense of it and see if that helps to make sense of life for other people too.
Mm-hmm. Did you find that you kind of needed to stay within that kind of contact loop? Like once you start going out and hugging people or doing that adventure, were you kind of like reminiscing about like, well, I'm not doing that now. I'm out of that space. I'm back to my own personal space. Was that kind of like a loss of the act of out hugging? You became kind of like, oh, do you needed to find another way to be like at peace with yourself?
Yeah, I think it was more the latter where because I didn't have a connection with myself, because I'd been masking my whole life. Because of that, I didn't have that connection with myself. So my loneliness was a deep rooted loneliness because I didn't even have myself. So when it was all so when all was said and done, I even though I was married and even though I had children, I had been looking for the validation through all of these people that I was hugging.
Just outside. Yep. Yeah, that's always the big thing is like a lot of times artists will do that. Yeah. Is like there's a problem with with yourself, right? And you look for it like, well, going on stage and going on tour and getting big and having this big persona is going to solve it.
Yep.
And you find
all these people, look at them, all these people love me, right?
And then when you get off the stage, you still don't like yourself. Yeah. Like that was like you see it in the 28 Club that like people get to this big pinnacle, like the Hendrixes, Jazz Joplin, Morrison. Yeah. This thing that happens, like these people are like, wow, they're brilliant, but then they couldn't like really handle themselves.
Right.
They couldn't look in the looking glass and they didn't like what they saw.
Yep.
And they never really addressed that. and the fame just covers that over,
Yeah.
but it doesn't solve it.
Yep. And the hugs were just covering it over for me, and it didn't solve it for me. And I feel grateful that before I went on that second hug journey, I already came to the awareness that I actually hated myself. And I write about this in the book because there was this very like clear moment where I was telling all of the thoughts in my head to shut up, because like anytime these like really nasty thought would come through, I would tell it to shut up. And I was like, I'll do that for, 24 hours. And, let me just kind of spy on my thoughts. Right. I didn't even make it to lunchtime, and I was sobbing on the floor because I was like, holy cow, judging by these thoughts, I absolutely hate myself. Oh my God, I had no idea. So like that was really the start of uncovering like, what is this about and what does this mean, which was part of the intention, the inner intention of just noticing when I was
Yeah,
out
it's
on
like
that
the
cross
inner
country
work.
trip.
We
Yeah.
like there's a lot of inner work people have to do to kind of solve that self, not loving themselves
Yeah.
and actually focusing on themselves,
Yeah.
especially if you are a people pleaser or somebody that never put themselves at first, right?
Yeah.
They basically put everyone else first to the detriment of their own self, and then wondered why, like, well, they were looking for happiness outside themselves.
Yeah.
And if
That
you
was definitely
can't,
me.
yeah, it is always like that big crucible moment. You look in the looking glass and you admit it. Like,
Yeah.
I am not happy. I'm not happy with myself. I don't love
Yeah.
myself. So, like, when you realize that that's the problem, was it still hard to solve it, or is it to get to get to I guess a better place? Was that still a lot of work, and you're still working on it?
So much work. So much work. And I mean, I would say I am still working on it. I think it is like a lifelong process of, continuing to return to myself. But um the actual process of coming to the place where the self-love started to shine through was so hard, because I was having to not only become aware of all of these lies that I'd been telling myself about myself, but then I had to break them, which is all these identities that you have to break. And every time you go to break an identity, it feels like death. Like it feels like in your body, you feel like you're dying. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like, my God, it's so hard.
Yeah, it's like you got to shed that self,
Yeah.
and it's hard because like you're losing like something that you were kind of relying on. If you're
Yeah.
relying, it's like your crutch.
Yeah.
It's like we have these stage selves in music, and they can become a crutch where they can end up being like a method actor,
Yeah.
and you actually live your stage self, not your real self.
Yeah.
And then if you're living your stage self, then you're not really being honest, right?
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
And so like that honesty moment can be really crucial. And that you can be in tears, you could be kind of in the dumps, you can get really like, it's a lot of pain because like you got to come
A
to
lot of
terms
pain.
with like now I can't really live as this person. I have to move to who I really am, and like
Yeah.
that's a journey you're still probably on, where you
Yeah.
have to get to a place where it's sustainable
Right.
and make that you're actually making progress.
Right. And who is this authentic me? And can I love her? Because there was a reason why I was hiding her in the first place.
Hmm.
So all of those reasons are still going to be there. Can I stand up in the face of them and say, no, I don't care what you think about me. I don't care that you don't like me. I don't care that you expect something different from me. This is me, and I'm okay with me. As a matter of fact, those things that you don't like about me, they're the things I love the most. you know?
Yeah. And is that hard when you get to this point, kind of like law of attraction? Like once you start radiating at a frequency where you're basically self-actualized and you're kind of where you should be,
Yeah.
sometimes the people that are around you are going to change because now you're not where you were.
Yeah.
Did you
Yeah.
find that happen?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I lost numerous people that were best friends, very near and dear to my heart. I lost quite a few of them, and that's really painful. And at times, I would get to this point that Martha Beck, she's a coach that I absolutely admire. And she talks about it as the elevator moment. And it's this moment where you're just vibing higher and higher. Well, not everybody is joining you in that elevator. As a matter of fact, most of the time you're alone in that elevator. So you have these moments as you're vibing higher where you feel better with yourself, but nobody else, they're not liking it. They're not liking it.
Yeah,
And so
'cause
they
they like
begin
their
to
own
drop
self.
off.
Yeah, it's like in music, sometimes it's like you had a hit when you were 17,
Mm-hmm.
and then by the time you're 28, well, you're not 17 anymore.
Right.
Or if the 35-year-old self or the 45-year-old, and then the problem is the industry wants you to still be
Yep.
that 17-year-old.
Right.
And because that's maybe where you had your most success, so they're always like, "Can't you just keep on doing that?"
Right.
And the thing
Right.
is, like, I can't really keep on doing that and feel good
Right.
because that's not where I am,
Yeah.
and
That's not
that
who I
can be
am
the big
anymore.
bad loop dilemma.
Yeah. But the beautiful thing is when you like with the elevator metaphor, you'll get to a point where you get to the next level and there's people there. They're waiting for you. They're waiting for
Yeah,
this version of you. And it's awesome.
it's something that you have to bucket because, like, you get like a guy like Bowie,
Hmm.
he would change and he
Yeah.
wouldn't go back.
Yep.
Right? He kept on evolving. You would come up with these different like stage personas, kind of like this is where I am.
Yeah.
And I'm not Ziggy, maybe I'm Aladdin Sane, maybe I'm a Thin White Duke, maybe I'm this other kid. He would evolve into different characters based on different types of music, different theatrical presentations, and he wasn't just like stuck in his younger day self. He would move.
Yeah.
And if the audience, that liked Ziggy didn't like this other character, that's fine
Yeah.
because this is where I am now.
Yeah.
And some people have a hard time with that because they want to hold on to a base of connections,
Yeah.
and they kind of like, well, those connections don't want to follow you.
Right. And you just got to be like ready and willing to let them go.
Yeah, it's a hard thing because I think a lot of people they maybe find safety in that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And like we're always geared towards safety, like I talked about, like
Yep.
you know, thinking and it's this virtual wolf at the door
Yep.
is the threat of losing that group.
Yep.
So that becomes like, does that keep me in a bad loop? Or am I allowed to evolve? Because it's
Yeah.
like it's a decision you have to make. You have to get to a point where you can practice maybe like reprogramming yourself
Yep.
and reframing yourself and having more of a more positive mindset, rather like a growth mindset.
Yep. The growth mindset. Yep. Yeah. It makes all the difference. And I mean, the more that I vibe at a level that it expresses my brightest light, the more I'm like, I still have that sense of, oh my God, if I do this, then I'm not going to have that safety anymore if I keep vibing higher and higher. Like that sense is still there.
Yeah,
But now that it's been practiced, I'm
it's
like,
easier.
oh no, it just keeps getting better and better and better. I'm just going to keep going.
Well, this idea of music, there's an idea like in fusion jazz that there's no bad note, there's an opportunity.
I
And the
love
way
that.
it presents itself, like when you're in the jazz, modal jazz or fusion jazz, you could have a composition, but you're not wedded to it.
Yeah.
If anybody in the band plays a note that's unexpected, you will actually go ramp to that note. And even though it wasn't on the page,
Yeah.
it's actually not scary. It's kind of what you want.
Yeah.
And the fact that you can evolve the song over time or any space, it will change. It's okay. It's actually wanted. It's actually
Yeah.
desirable. And if you were like a classical musician trying to, do Chopin or Beethoven or Bach, you're kind of wedded to what's on the page.
Right.
If
Right.
you're this other kind of musician, like you're not as wedded to what's on the page, so you can change it. And
Right.
it's not the end of the world. It's actually where you want to go.
Yeah. It's like the improv, the yes and.
Yes.
Yes. And let's keep going. Let's pivot. Let's, find that next great just self.
Yeah, it's like even when you see a stage actor doing a play, like a
Yeah.
one act play, and every night they play that character a little bit different.
Yeah.
They deliver the line a little bit different, and it's okay if the director says, "Well, you get some directors say, no, you need to be exact," but a lot of people will give the actor the leeway to be in the method acting or in the character, and it's really interesting when you have people that have like this kind of box mindset. You will do exactly note for note, word for word what's on the script. And then some people like maybe they find peace in that,
Yeah.
but some people find stagnation in that.
Yeah. I would argue that even the people that find peace in it, because I found peace in it for a while, but there comes a point where you can't help but keep blooming. So, like, at some point, that box just gets to be too tight. So, enjoy the peace while it's there. Just know that it's not going to last forever, right?
Yeah, yeah. Eventually, like you don't want to be like the
Hmm.
assembly line worker that's just
Yeah.
putting that one rivet in every day.
Yeah.
Maybe that was good for a while,
Yeah.
but eventually it's like, well, is that all life is? Just
Right.
doing this one rivet all the time. Then they got robots to do it. Then it's like, oh, now what am I gonna do? You
Right.
need to do something else.
Yeah, exactly. Like, no matter what, change is constant. We can't avoid it. So, we might as well flow with it.
Yeah, because we're living in this big change moment because
Yeah.
like we're living in the automation, robotic AI age
Yeah.
where a lot of people's livelihoods or the way they've done things is radically changing, and it's changing very fast.
Yep.
And we're kind of being told to do, they kind of critical thinking is really important, but a lot of times what we've been taught with our educations really didn't teach us critical thinking. They
Yep.
were kind of taught in an agricultural, industrial
Yep.
structure that expected us to do repeat things, repeatable
Right.
loops. And
Right.
now we're in the age where people are saying, well, you should think out the box. But you're not really training people to think out the box.
No, as a matter of fact, you're like squashing it. Like, as soon as we start to think outside of the box, it's like, oh, but that's not what I was talking about. You can't do it that way.
It's
Right?
interesting, like the tech bro AI people are saying everybody's got to go and become a thinker out the box. It's like, well, that's not what our systems have trained people to do.
Yeah. Yep.
So like that is a radical shift, and then you didn't really set anybody up to understand that,
Yeah.
right? And so now you're suddenly doing it so quick that it's going to be a radical like situation for a lot of people. It's like, whoa,
It is.
I didn't know that the semi is going to be run by a robot, and I don't have that job.
And I
Even the
think that,
programmer might not have his job. The engineer might not
right.
have his job. So it's
Right.
not just it's blue collar and white collar all at the same time.
Yeah. And I think this is where where I feel such a pull to want to help people like return to their most authentic self, because I think that what we have inside of us is exactly what's needed for creating like the best possible world. Like, I think that when we're left to our own devices, left to our authentic self and what gifts we came into this world with, we can create such better cultures. We can create such better communities. We can innovate in ways we haven't even imagined, that's even beyond AI. And
Yeah, yeah. Well,
I believe that.
the human brain is still the best computer on the
Yes.
planet.
Yeah.
And what we have is each individual person, human being, is their own secret sauce.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in the music, I always tell people, like, if you come to me, a lot of musicians, if they're young, they'll come to a producer and they'll show you that they can do something that already exists, like something that's already in the
Yeah.
top 20,
Right.
to prove they're a good musician. And I always point out, it's like, I don't want to hear that because that person already exists.
Yeah.
What I want to hear is the song you're scared to show me, because that
Yes.
doesn't exist. And
Yeah.
that's what we can work with to make you actually stand out.
Yeah.
But we tend to have people want to clone and copy. And cloning and copy is kind of like the rule of thumb, but that gets a little old, and it's only going to work to a certain degree. Like what's
Yeah.
really going to work is when Jimi Hendrix, like he didn't clone anybody. He was like, he came out of nowhere. And
Yeah.
just like when people are unique, they get remembered
Yeah.
even to this day.
Yeah.
That people remember a person at that level. You get a William Blake, you get a Shakespeare, you get people who actually self-actualized and then kind of created the bar.
Right.
I think a lot of people can do that, but they're told that they can't.
Yep. I agree.
And that's the permission structure to kind of, it's like you're breaking down walls. And with what you're doing with your book, with the Rebel Hugger, you are breaking down walls physically.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that, that's necessary because as you were saying, like we're on our phones and when we're completely disconnected, not just from like other human beings, but from ourselves too. And this act of hugging returns us back to our bodies. And we be like, we're back in ourselves again. And like that's where we need to be in order to do the things that we came to do in this world. We need to be in our bodies. We came here to be in our bodies.
Yeah. Well, that's where like the physical contact of,
Mhm.
being in the world and actually having, that nonverbal conversation through a hug,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
leading to the real conversation that's not just about the weather and not about
Yep.
what your
Yep.
sports team did. Could we have these conversations, but really, is it valuable to
Yeah.
ask somebody about the weather and what the sports team did? Is like, really, like, do you want to get to something deeper that actually would, maybe like the deeper thing was the hug? It was
Yeah.
nonverbal. And
Yeah.
musicians, we deal with a lot of nonverbal things. There's a lot of nonverbal communication between musicians,
Yeah.
and we get a lot of information without even saying anything.
Right.
And so that kind of being able to read that, and then if you touch, then that gives even more, right?
Yeah.
So you get to dance and, other forms of like arts that start
Yeah.
to meld multiple things. So did you see like the difference between like the nonverbal and then the verbal communication that you started to address with like your next wave, or like staying over,
Yeah.
did it
I
address
mean,
other things like in terms of communication?
yeah, for sure. Because, when you have, when the walls have already come down by being in this very vulnerable state of hugging each other, it makes for an easier time going deeper in conversations. So then, I mean, to think about talking about the weather after hugging somebody, that almost feels absurd. Like, because, okay, we've just hugged each other. Like, the last thing we're going to talk about is the weather. No, let's talk about your hopes and your dreams. Tell me about, like, the thing that you've been most proud of. Tell me about the wildest, most beautiful thing that you saw in this last month. Like, let's talk
Yeah.
about it.
With the stories, because the thing about like
Yeah.
human culture is the oral histories is what gave us our culture. And they kind of
Yep.
gave us the art, the fact that people would have these oral histories that were like handed down. Multiple cultures have these oral histories. They ended up getting written, but
Yep.
still, the oral history talent of being able to do that in front of like a fire, or it evolves into dance, it evolves into all kinds of communication, is very core to human like development. And I think our sense of self
Yeah.
and community is tied to those oral traditions and those communal events of people getting together and, having these ways to interact.
Yeah. Magic happens around the campfire, right?
Yeah, the conversations that people have at a campfire.
hmm Yeah, that was actually at the top of my mind when I asked people to host me in their city. It was half of the people I knew, half of the people I didn't know. So half of them were strangers to me. But the act of hosting me in the city, what I asked them for was the hugs, a place to sleep, dinner to eat, and good conversation. And the reason for the dinner was because it expands on this vulnerability. Because when we go back to our like most primitive selves, our most primitive self knows that when we're in the act of eating in front of another, we are safe, because
Mhm.
we wouldn't be able to do our whole digestive process
I
if
had
we
to
weren't
run.
feeling right. Right. So the act of eating creates that a next level of safety. So there would be like the hug, then the eating around the dinner table, and that just completely opened up the floor to just really going there with these conversations. So
And
it was amazing.
that's really important because a lot of times that mealtime conversation modern society has gotten us to like, oh, we're going to eat on the run.
In
That we're
front of the
not going to,
TV or
everybody's
mhm,
eating their own thing because they got
mhm.
DoorDash and like Johnny's got pizza and this one's got Chinese and like they're all eating separately, all
Yep,
doing shit. They're not even in a microcosm of family,
yep,
not sitting down at the table together, right?
yeah,
And then if they're always on the go, getting takeout or not sitting together, not going to like the restaurant and having a dinner party. Like, where's the dinner party?
yep.
People like get the 50s and the 40s is like dinner parties. People
Yes.
would go to like their neighbor's house and they'd have maybe they'd be dancing or dinner, but there was like this whole communication that like where's that? It's like a lost thing.
Yeah. I mean, we had Sunday family dinners at my grandparents' house when I was growing up. And I was thinking about that concept in the past couple of months. So a couple months ago, I was like, you know what? I'm tired of not having Sunday family dinners. So I put a call out to a whole bunch of people in my community. And I was like, Sunday family dinners, my house every other week. We're going to do this now. I think it's so important to return to that.
Yeah, because it gets back to that. If you're talking, then you get insight to people around you, and you
Mhm.
find that, like, oh, within this microcosm, we've got some connections, we got some similar things, and we even if you don't have the similar belief, you can have a conversation. You have a
Yep.
conversation. It's like diplomacy, right?
Yep.
Rather than just having assumptions. Like if you don't
Yep.
talk, all you get are assumptions
Yep.
that are kind of like based on what you like you believe this to be true. So if you hear something, you get triggered and then like it confirms your belief and there's
Right.
no discussion. It's just
Yeah.
immediately you go to like, oh, I don't like them. Oh, I do
Yeah.
like them, or they get them out of here. It's like whatever. It's like you're not really having a nuanced situation where like if you're in that dinner situation, you're listening to everybody.
And I
You're
think, yeah, go ahead.
no,
Sorry.
go ahead.
I had a very visceral experience of that when I was on the cross country trip, where it wasn't somebody that I was staying with, but it was somebody that I had dinner with, somebody that I'd talked to on the phone before, but I'd never met in person. And I expected that we had pretty much everything in common because we got along so good on the phone. And we're sitting down at dinner, and there was this moment where her political views were so different from mine.
Yeah,
And my body actually went into fight or flight. Like I actually went into fight or flight, but because we were at the dinner table, because we were at this restaurant, I just had to rely on my tools to like get
yeah,
myself out of
get through
fight or
it. Yeah,
flight, right? And like just focus on my breathing and focus on being present. And I just let her talk. And then when she was done talking and saying her piece, we returned to our connection with dogs and animals. And
yeah.
like there didn't have to be like I wanted to run away in that moment, but
Yeah.
because I didn't, I was able to return to that connection and we were able to continue to see each other as humans, and I was really grateful for that.
I think that's real important because like when you get into that camp, right? If you fight or flight, like if you go and leave, then the common thing like you both love dogs or you like the something like then people are going to say, well, we're both humans. You have this political belief, I have this other, but we can actually still live together.
Yeah.
The problem in the kind of society today is people are saying, well, we can't live together
Yeah. Yeah.
because your ideas are so radical. I can't even be in this supermarket with you.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
I can't be anywhere with you. And so if we get so like segmented and dispersed in our little lanes, then society's gonna break down.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. And this can all be fixed just by a couple of hugs. Come on, people. Just let's
Yeah.
go
Well,
out there.
that's just a human thing to like break it down and like, treat people like family because we're all human family.
Yeah. We're all human family. I mean, when you're hugging somebody, you feel that, like it's just,
I think it's super important. I think
yeah.
what you did, like you got a trend there. You get it going on TikTok.
The hugging trend of break down those walls with the hug.
Yeah, you just like the social media algorithms. Like, well, how could you get this to like just blow up? You know? You do a
I,
campaign like that, you know?
I mean, if anybody has ideas out there, hit me up.
Yeah, because that you know, this like, oh, I'm not a marketer, but I'm kind of in the music world. We think of like, oh, A&R is always thinking of ways to kind of trigger, you know, get something
Hmm.
going.
Hmm.
And like, you know, yeah, that you know, the social media is the big thing. The influencer thing is the big
Yeah,
thing, like the
yeah,
cat video.
yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
like, yeah, it's a cool thing though. Like I'd rather see more ideas like what you're talking about than just. I have cats, but like cat videos are getting a little.
I don't know. I mean, I do love a good cat video. So,
Yeah, well, I like you know I like my cat. I
right.
make my own cat videos.
I hear that. I hear that.
But I want to thank you for being on the show today. We do have Melinda Schmidt.com.
Yes.
And if people click on that, how would get your book or get more
Yep.
information on what you're doing?
You can get my book through the website, or you can just go on Amazon and look up Rebel Hugger. It is on Amazon as well.
Well, I want to let people know that that is fully clickable on the platforms that we've been on right now. We've been on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Kick. We will be on all the other platforms where you can listen to or watch a podcast by tomorrow. I want to thank you for being a guest on the Family Electric Goes podcast.
Thank you so much, Phantom. I've really enjoyed my time here.
Thank you.